DateTime. It's time to talk about DateTime. So, date and time fields, you'll find an awful lot out there as you're going through and you're starting to ingest your data into Power BI, right? My advice, avoid DateTime like the plague. It's the worst thing you can do to your Power BI model is to fill it full of DateTime values. But why? Alright lads and lasses, welcome along. Weekend work. DateTime values are part of the realities of data, right? System generated data sets, anything like that, right? Accounting systems, your ERP systems, your point of sale systems, they're all going to put in DateTime values for things. So like, what was the date time of the sale? Now, there might be times when, I need to know the DateTime value for when something happened. I need to know the time of day that it happened. Right? 9 times out of 10 though, for your month to date measures, I couldn't care less if we sold that at 9 in the morning or at 5 p.m. And that's a difficult one. A lot of the time people go, well, I need. You don't, right? There are use cases where you need date time. Definitely there are, right? But a lot of the time you'll find for your analysis work, especially like your large production level analytics that are going to go to your whole business, you don't, right? Date will normally do. So what do I mean? Why are people saying this? I don't understand. It makes no sense to us. Let's cut an hour into Power BI desktop and have a look and see if we can make sense of the whys for doing this. All right, so here we are, Power BI desktop, right? And you can see over my shoulder, right? I've got 3 tables: date, date plus time, and date time. Right? That's the 3 variants that you can have. So if we look here, you can see me date. I've just got dates there. If we go into me date time, you see those are date and times. Yeah. And if we go to the date plus time, you see I've got dates here. And if we scroll right over here, you see I've got the time columns. Okay. So it's the same data set, the same 600,000 rows of data, right? Everything is the same apart from how those initial 2 date time columns are handled. So we've got 3 tables that are in every other way identical. If we go to our external tools, and remember you need to have those installed, we're going to use DAX Studio for this. We're going to click DAX Studio and it'll open up. You can see it's connected to my model. Right, perfect. Oh, under the advanced, we're going to click to view the metrics. So we can now see how those 3 tables make up our data model. Okay, and we can see 21 columns, and 23 columns, which makes sense. Yeah, because we added 2 columns for the date plus time. The rest are just whether the column is a date or it's a date time value. One of the interesting things, if we're looking just here at the tables, really is around table size. So the table size of our main date time optional version, right, is 62 megabytes, 63 nearly megabytes, right? The date plus time, having 4 columns instead of 2, right, is 21.6. I mean, that's just, right? And then lastly, the date, where we've converted the date time to be a date, is down to 7. So it's 1/10 of the size, pretty much, of it. And we can see it when we look at the percentages. So I don't, just to prove to you, why is that so bad? Right? If we look at the column size here, it's the date time values. They're taking up 28 megs. Each one, 28.2 for the 2 of them to be there. Now, if we think through, right, the original file size was 53 megabytes, right, with compression's not happening here, is it, with this one? So whatever we've done, we've been unable to compress it. Right? And it's because of the cardinality, so how unique that column is. If we look at the date and time, right? We can see they're both 7, right? So straight away, we've lost, what, 3/4 of the size just by making it a date value, right? And then obviously we've got the time. So those are the times, the copies, the times, the time roads, times. That's time. I've just realised that's the time, right? So the time alone is the quarter. So there's something going on with the time values, and it's to do with seconds and stuff. You end up with lots of uniqueness. So there's almost one unique value for each second there, isn't there? 83,000, I think there's 86,000 seconds in a day, isn't it? Something like that. Top of my head. I'll put the right answer up here somewhere, right? And yet, in terms of what dates, we've only got 44 unique date values, which I suppose is right, given it's a month, but a month has got 44 unique values for a month. A bit weird. But you can kind of get there. We can understand a lot more about what potentially is going on here. Right? Data quality issues aside, we've shown straight away that if we drop back down into the date, you can see the date time, which is just the date now, it shows it's the same as it would be in the date plus time. So that's why we say, if you want to get your algorithms or your maximum compression, change it. And, this is the taxi data set. So how often do we need to know the time? What's the time used for? Really, is kind of what you say, yeah. And chances are, for us, we might just be interested in the hours and minutes. So if we could get rid of the seconds, that makes a difference to our cardinality, which is then going to allow greater compression. So have your date and a time as a separate one, but bring it down. So it's not looking at hours, minutes, seconds. Make it just look for hours and minutes. If you can change that even just hours, because it might be a case of saying, I just need to know what went on between 9 and 10 in the morning, what went on between, and in fact, the analysis we did was based on 3-hour windows, just because, is it early morning? Is it mid-morning? Is it, just to try and work out rather than it being such hard and fast. It's important to understand what the use of your data is, right? But what you need to be taken away from today is this figure here, right? That your date times they'll flatten you. If you put lots and lots of date time values in, which you will do, because dates are something that you'll find as you build up, even if you think just about sales pipeline, right? We've got the initial contact date, so there'll be a quote, or you might just have a contact and then a quote date for when the quote was generated, and then you'd have an order date, and then you'd have a ship date, and then you'd have a receive date, and then you'd have a payment received date or an invoice date, right? Well, how many dates? Right? If you had a date time for each of them, right, it's a problem. And when you think through what you really want to know is, well, how much do we sell today? That's, normally that's going to be your kind of question, your level of questions. How much did we produce last shift? What did we do in the last day? So what do you reckon? Yeah. Date times and the way to use them is important, right? There are things that you need them for. Yeah. If you're going to do deep process mining, like proper process mining across a process, like your normal manufacturing processes, something like that, right? You definitely need to have date time. You can maybe, if you think through and you're going into your full sales pipeline process, you might be able to do without the date time side of it. But, a lot of the things, date time makes a difference. It becomes really important when you're looking at the actual nuances of what's happening. So, there are use cases where you need it, but what you need to be avoiding is just throwing in date time value, date time value, date time value. And we looked and we can see the difference there. Like that 53 megabyte file that we start with, that CSV, if we use date time, we lose nothing, right? We can't compress it. It's basically what we're saying, right? If we used date value, for some reason we're getting 44 from the 1 month value, but I know roughly why that's going to be. Invalidate things. There's going to be, if we look through it, you'll find there's all sorts of other peculiarities within the date. It's not a huge issue. The key thing to get to is that it works consistently. And by removing cardinality and minimizing the number of different values that you have, right, you find you can actually compress. And what we show is that it goes from being that 50 odd megabytes in terms of uncompressed down to it being 7, which is just ridiculous, right? You know, it's nearly a tenfold decrease. The file, the Power BI file, yes, it is compressed in that if we actually look at the source folder that it's in, it is still 26 megabytes, so it's half the size with the 3 tables in. But what we're showing is that the compression is not being able to be leveraged as much as you're going through and actually using it. But yeah, the lesson is key. Take care of your data as you're bringing it through. So don't forget, anyway, head on over to geordieintelligence.co.uk, become a member, right? Enroll on some of our courses. We'll help gan through and take you through all this stuff that we deal with, right? It's an absolute minefield, but honestly, we can breeze through it with a bit of support, yeah? No problems. Didn't forget, yeah? Keep looking out for yourselves. Keep taking care, right? And stay safe. Have a great weekend. Ta-da.